Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Hardwood Nation podcast with your boy CL Anthony and my main man Bryce Ward. What's going on, Bryce?
Oh, same old man. Just glad to be here and hope everything's going great with you.
Everything's fantastic. Bryce,
Excellent.
I hate being right. I think you hate being right. We're gonna celebrate today, Bryce. Guess what we're celebrating, Bryce?
Oh, I know. I'm gonna let you say
For all the fuck boys on Twitter and Facebook groups and the internet and all the fuck boy writers and everybody,
it.
fuck you. Oh, and the GMs, where 70% of the GMs picked the Brooklyn Nets to win the NBA championship. Fuck you too, because we're like two of the only ones that got it right when we said this team doesn't have a chance in hell of winning championship this season. What we didn't know was that they were going to be swept out of the playoffs in the first round. That's what we didn't know. Bryce, how do you feel about the Brooklyn Nets? And do you think this is in your lifetime of watching basketball, is this the biggest failure you've ever seen?
um, I think so. I think so because in terms of usually the teams and the players are pretty confident they're going to try to win a championship, even though it's not realistic. This is the first time I feel like so many other people have been on board the champion or we're going to win a championship train, and it's it's blown me away from the beginning. Like just my gut instinct, I was like, I don't understand this, and for there to have been so much support for it, it just continued to blow me away to the very end, to like right before the playoffs started. I was continuously like surprised that people were still so confident.
Mhm. It is something to behold. And real quick, I just saw an article that popped up from the New York Post that says the Nets and the Barclays Center lost between 50 million and 100 million combined in the 2021-22 NBA season, giving owner, I can't pronounce his name, so I'm not even going to try it, perhaps the worst financial losses in the NBA. So not only do you get swept in the first round, now you're losing boatloads of money. Okay, let's back this up a little bit. We're going to give everybody a little history lesson. It might be long winded. I don't give a fuck. There's certain ways to build basketball teams. There's two ways that stand out: through the draft, slow grind; through free agency, quick build. Both have proven to be slightly successful in the league. When you build through quick free agent, quick high price free agent acquisitions, you're top heavy. So your stars, two or three, will get the majority of the salary cap. Then you have to fill your roster with guys at the end of the road on vet minimum contracts. See the Los Angeles Lakers. Brooklyn tried to do the same thing. It blew up in spectacular fashion because it was a bad makeup. I've told you the Lakers were actually constructed better than this team was, so it was a bad makeup. But then also you had continuity issues because Kyrie missed around half the season. So I want to ask you, because in his press conference he spoke about the lack of playing time together, the lack of continuity as one of the reasons for why they failed. Do you think it was fair for him to bring that up, considering he was the reason why they had a lack of continuity, or should it have been said better by Kevin Durant or Steve Nash?
No, I think Kyrie knew. I mean, he's not an idiot. He knew what everybody's been saying most of the season. Of course, I would think that like an experienced basketball player could understand the importance of having that kind of continuity and experience on the court. So I think it's such an undeniable element of it if you're really paying attention to it that it's almost like he had to address the elephant in the room.
Hmm.
In a way, he took the responsibility by acknowledging it the way he did, even though it's everybody's like, well, of course you don't have continuity. It's your fault.
Right. Right.
Now, granted, we're not ripping him for that because he had his beliefs,
Right.
and in my opinion, he's entitled to that. But he paid the price, and the team paid the price. So at the end of the day, you have to acknowledge it because it was a choice made. Whether or not it's the right or wrong choice, it's just a choice you made. So I'm not going to rip him for that. But in terms of him having to acknowledge it, I feel like he had to a little bit.
Hmm.
Everybody else can acknowledge it, but then it just kind of feels like they're talking shit about Kyrie to me. He needed to say something, um, and I think it's right. Maybe that some people ripped him. Like that's on them if they want to go that route. I'm not going to rip him necessarily. I'm just going to acknowledge that absolutely that was a problem, and it was because of you. Like that's fine. You had good reasoning. I guess I could say. But still, I feel like he had to acknowledge it in some way because it's like the elephant in the room. It's too big of a deal on the basketball court. As the guy who's going to handle the ball, arguably the most.
Yeah. That's a great point. You're not some role player. You're not a center. You're not a forward. You're the guy with the ball in your hands.
Not a catch
That
and shoot guy. You have to
right.
get the ball to the other guys where they can best use it. It's not even like you hear of like great point guards. It's they know their team so well that their teammates don't even have to think about it. Like they know that the point guard knows where they like the ball, where the best time to get them the ball is. That's when a team is firing on like all cylinders. You can just be a point guard and pass the ball and it not do as much as like say Chris Paul. And when we're talking about a Kyrie Irving, arguably one of the best guys in the league, he should do everything at a high level. So everything's affected.
I think all the smoke that Kyrie got this week is warranted. I think he didn't get as much smoke as he should have gotten. When I look at Kyrie Irving, I look at a great individual basketball player. But pay attention to what I said. Great individual basketball player. He has never had great team success. He's never had it. Even when he was in college for 1 year, he didn't even play that full year because he was hurt with Duke. He's missed almost 40% of his total games in the NBA by injury, by whatever. Okay. Um, Having Kyrie Irving on your team isn't conducive to team success. We saw in Boston how they gelled as a team and played better and went on a deep playoff run without him, which put
Mhm.
him in a sourpuss mood. And then he left when he said he wasn't going to leave, right? So Brooklyn's failure, even though I will say this, even though Kyrie deserves all the smoke, it's not just on Kyrie because you still have to go back to the makeup of that team and how it was constructed poorly. Um, and then how the relationship with James Harden deteriorated. James Harden's in the second round right now. He's not going to be there long, but he's in the second round right now. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant are booking their trip to Cancun,
Mhm.
right? Looking at it, it's like Harden won it out. It looked like it might turn out to be great for Harden. For the Nets, not so much, because they're in the same boat now that the Lakers are. We don't talk about age a lot with Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's like 34 years old. You got an aging star on a big contract. Kyrie's like 30, I think. You have no money. The franchise is losing money. LaMarcus Aldridge is not going to bring you an NBA championship. Blake Griffin, for damn sure, is not going to bring you an NBA championship. I don't know how this team can rebound. What do you think the future is for Brooklyn, considering the failure of this year? And you have a bone with Ben Simmons, so you have that. But how do you think they turn out?
Um, I think, uh, I mean, there could be a coaching change. If it's me, I disagree with their the idea of who should be their top two guys. So, um, for me, I would do a complete rebuild.
Mhm.
So, but I don't see them doing that. I just see them rolling with Ben Simmons and maybe some few veteran changes, vet minimum changes. So they
Yeah.
swap some old guys for some other old guys, kind of thing.
Right. Right.
I don't think they're going to be too different next year. They're just going to roll with. We're going to have the whole year to play together as long as Kyrie and Durant are healthy. Ben Simmons are their big three are healthy. Um, I think they're going to roll with thinking that's enough, even though Ben Simmons, his mental fortitude seems to be extremely low. And so for me, as an outsider looking in, if I was a fan of Brooklyn, really wanting them to succeed, uh, I would be very skeptical because I don't believe in Ben Simmons. I don't believe in Kyrie Irving putting in a full season and being there when it truly counts. And even if he is, I don't feel like he's going to have enough help the right way from Durant. And when I say
Mhm.
right way, in terms of being the type of leader you need in a team to lift the rest of his team up to play. Because a championship caliber team's not going to win that way. And to me, you can have as many aces as you want, but if you don't have a Tim Duncan, a Dwayne Wade, a LeBron James, a Steph Curry, if you don't have a guy who knows how to win and knows how to help his team win in the hardest times, those aces are going to do exactly what they did this year and shoot what I mean. They had some of the worst playoff games of their career. Yeah, it's not going to work. Ben Simmons being there, who can't shoot, isn't going to work either. He's going to play his game. He's going to probably have a decent little stat sheet throughout the season. And when you need him down the stretch, he's not going to be able to score for you.
Mhm.
So they might be better next year just from having those three guys most of the season. But that's a hypothetical too because those guys don't play the whole season. Um, Ben Simmons can't even get past a quote unquote mental block that's, I think, stressing his back. Kyrie hasn't played a full season, I don't think, ever. And Durant, like you said, is aging, has never been an alpha. He's just been a quote unquote great scorer. He can play defense. He's not known for being this great two-way player. He's not Giannis. He's not Jason Tatum.
Right.
So I just don't see how you go from getting swept in the first round to, even if all those other things that you're banking on go right, and then on top of that, you have to fire Steve Nash and get a new coach. So I don't even know if they do that, even though they need to. I just don't see the Brooklyn Nets going from a first round sweep and having their two stars exposed to adding a weak minded Ben Simmons and thinking that that's going to be enough to win a championship. So in my eyes, you need to break down everything and replace it, but they're not going to do that. So I
Right. I
think we
think.
have another like fool's gold year where everybody thinks they're going to win a championship, and I think they get clipped by the first real team they have to play. So that's what I think has a strong chance of happening.
I'm looking at Kyrie's career games. Even his first year, his rookie season was when the last time we had a shortened season due to a lockout. Um, the league played 66 games. He only played in 51 games. He has never played a full 82 game schedule in the NBA.
Mhm.
He just hasn't. By injury, by personal time off, by whatever it is, Kyrie Irving has never played
Oh,
a
and
full
real
82
quick,
game season.
not to mean to cut you off, but I forgot. and
No, you're fine.
no shade at Kyrie, but Brooklyn, expect one of your aces to be exhausted and tired throughout the playoffs because he's going to fast every year at the playoffs. Not
Yeah,
hating
yeah,
on him for that. I'm just
yeah,
saying it's a factor.
yeah. The timing of it sucks. Timing of that absolutely sucks.
Hmm.
Um, and you're right. So that's more stress on the other guys, right? Um,
Hmm.
who those guys should be riding the coattails of Kyrie and Durant, not the other way around at that stage in their career, right? So it's a mess. I just think it's ironic that it was a complete and utter failure, considering basketball guys, basketball minds who know how you win in this league, and for some reason they fell in love with Brooklyn. I'm like, wait a minute, this goes against what we all know as far as how to build a team and how to win in the NBA. And I'm speaking of the player management, player coach relationships. That part has never won in the NBA, and I'm just flabbergasted at why all of these people were shell shocked into thinking this was actually going to work. The players cannot run the asylum, or the inmates can't run the asylum and expect to win. That's not what this is. We've had the Nets organization exposed on the Dan Lebertard show by our homie who wrote the book. So we know how they
Yeah.
came together. We know all they care about, and I'm going to be blunt here, is smoking, fucking, and getting money. We know this. That's all they care about. Their organization coddles them with that.
Hmm.
You cannot be undisciplined off the court and expect to have discipline on the court. See James Harden, who's going to have a rough week in Miami. You better believe that. So I don't understand how everyone thought Brooklyn was going to win this. I just don't. Neither Kevin Durant nor Kyrie Irving have proved individually that they could do this. Yes, they both have rings off the back of LeBron James and off the back of Stephen Curry. That's it.
Hmm.
That is it. They have failed in their biggest moments. When Kyrie was bitching about Cleveland, was bitching about LeBron, and went to Boston to have his own team, and that failed up until this week, that was his biggest failure. Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, for them not being able to be on the same page, for taking their championship steps and then getting to the finals and being absolutely obliterated, and then a few years later losing the 3-1 lead to Golden State, that was his biggest failure. They have no success as individuals or as champions. They wrote Charles Barkley was absolutely right, and we're going to get into that. They were bus riders. They were not bus drivers. They were bus riders. Now they were bus drivers, and look at what happened. You can't have an
Hmm.
inexperienced bus driver. The bus gonna crash, and it crashed, right? So
Went
how do
up in
you
flames.
went up in flames? Stephen Curry could have drove this bus. LeBron James could have drove this bus. You see what I'm saying? Kobe
Hmm.
Bryant, Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, they could have drove the fucking bus. How do you
Dirk.
feel about Dirt? Yep. Oh, Dirt. How do you feel about um, Kevin Durant going after Charles Barkley?
Oh, I mean, he was going to pick someone. You know how he gets when as many people were talking about him as they were. He was going to pick someone. I mean, he does that. I'm not necessarily surprised. I'm glad they had some back and forth. And what's funny is like, um, he claims like, or he'll get on Twitter and just say this outrageous stuff and go back and forth for a little bit, and then you'll see something come out, and he's like, "Why y'all like focusing on me or this and that?" And we're like, "You, what are you talking about? You just
Right,
decided you got done. You've been doing the same thing, man."
right,
So
right.
I don't know. He to me, I think he just gets such a kick out of it, like he likes it, but he's just I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot about Kevin Durant that I don't understand, and that's another big part of it. I'm not surprised he went after anybody. Um,
Hmm.
I'm glad that Charles went back and forth with him some, and I
Yeah,
thought it was
yeah,
hilarious when Kevin Durant called out. like the situation was like, I don't know why you guys are doing this. It's like, okay, well, whatever, man. Uh,
The
that part of it is very confusing to me. As someone who's, I guess, more quiet when it comes to things like that, um, he just creates so many problems for himself, which after
right.
a while it seems like he does get fed up with. But you start the fire and then you get tired at how long it burns. So I don't know. It's just another thing with him that has become a habit. So it's not surprising at all.
Well, I tweeted out the cupcakes because you remember Russell Westbrook used to call him a cupcake
Mhm.
years ago when they split. I didn't like the fact that he called himself a god. Now we know Kyrie Irving is
Mhm.
delusional and he's a space cadet, and Kyrie does a lot of good. But there's a lot of things that I can't fuck with Kyrie on. But for a basketball player to call himself God, he didn't even say a god. He just said God. When we know of the basketball gods, I don't know how Kevin Durant thought that was going to go. I I don't know how he thought that was going to go. The basketball gods always have the last laugh, as we just saw what happened this week. You cannot circumvent the system and win in the NBA. You have to play the NBA's game, aka the basketball gods game. You can't play your own game and win in the NBA. It doesn't happen. You have to conform. LeBron James, he conformed. He learned how to play the NBA game, and he got rewarded with championships. That's how it works. Shaquille O'Neal, the same thing. You have to be humble. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving have been humble, but they haven't changed like the others have changed. And now you see the
Mhm.
result of that. I don't know if they can be humbled at this point. I don't know. Unless Brooklyn just blows up the team this year, like you said, just trade everybody, then maybe they would be humble, and then maybe they were reining in. Okay.
I
Um.
disagree.
Okay.
They would have been humbled already by their rings and their finals MVP trophies. These are
Hmm.
guys who don't understand the leadership role the right way. I feel like Kyrie kind of gets it, but he doesn't know how to execute or something. They both had problems with the quote unquote leaders of their championship teams, LeBron and Steph.
Hmm.
So what I think is they have an idea of leadership that just flat out doesn't work. They're the two type of guys that's like, give us the ball, we know what to do. They clashed with their leadership even though they won championships. They're like, we don't like this, so we're not going to do this to our players. But then there's no leadership. There's no real leadership. Uh, Kyrie, for whatever reason, doesn't know how to be a leader because otherwise he would have been on the championship Boston team, I feel like already, because that
Yes.
team's really good without him.
Yes.
And we're seeing
Yes.
it now, like what the hard work that Boston team has put in. But they were good then. So for whatever reason, like it seems like he has the confidence and the right mentality sometimes to be a leader, but for some reason it's just not there. Durant has always said he doesn't want to be that guy. He has said that all the way back from his OKC days. And I will never like forget that because to me it's such a glaring issue if he's your leader, your best player, or in your eyes, if that's what it is. If your best scorer is your leader, that's a problem if it's Kevin Durant. So that is just such a massive issue to me. Like they can't appreciate what that leadership did in terms of a championship. And so in their eyes, they didn't have to do that. But then their team gets swept in the first round. There's something to be
Yeah.
said for that. There's
Yes.
something to be said for
Yeah.
like the no leadership from the top down. There's no GM holding anyone accountable. Steve Nash is there just to look pretty on the sidelines for some reason. I mean, there's nothing there. There's nothing. That's why I say you have to strip the whole organization because
Yeah.
the culture is wrong. Your leaders are wrong. Your two best players are two number twos
Mm.
that have no interest in leading a championship because they have their stuff. They have their rings, they have their trophies. They've said it. I don't know how many press conferences. They have nothing to prove. They already think they're gods.
Hmm.
They're the Brooklyn Nets hitched their horses or hitched their wagons to horses that didn't want to go anywhere. I mean, if James Harden, we know James Harden is a pro at leaving teams, so it's not like it had to be some great situation. But James Harden is like, this is what's going on here. I mean, that's glaring. Everything about it is just terrible.
Look, funny James Harden story that I got. We'll get to it when we preview Miami and Philly. But you're absolutely right. Kevin Durant, you might not remember this, but this is about the time we first became friends. I told you, and I told everybody, and I screamed it. Kevin Durant was never the leader of the OKC Thunder. It was always Westbrook. And people would look at me like, what are you talking about? I'm like, Westbrook is the team leader. And the reason how I knew this was because back when Westbrook was active on Twitter, especially during the off seasons, he would always tweet his guys. They would always coordinate hanging out and doing team things, even in the off season. Never heard that from Kevin Durant. I'm like, this is so odd that Russell's the one organizing all this stuff, and then Durant's not. Then Durant left, and then we saw how important Russell was to the team. And like you, great point about Kyrie Irving being a failure as a leader too, because the failure is amplified when you consider the fact that they played with two of the greatest leaders of this generation, LeBron James and Stephen Curry. We saw LeBron James come into the league as a kid, physically gifted, physically dominant, didn't know how to put it all together until he came to Miami and met, not met, but played alongside of D Wade and learned how to be a leader, like D Wade learned from Shaq and Alonzo Mourning. So you saw LeBron kind of progress. You saw that switch turn for him. Kyrie played under that in Cleveland. Shame on him for not having that. Shame on him because he
He
should
fought
have put in the
against
work.
it. You had to
Right,
have the mentality of accepting the learning, and he didn't
right,
accept LeBron James the way
right,
LeBron James accepted Dwayne Wade.
right. He hated it, and that's why those two feuded. And then, like you mentioned with Durant in Golden State, the kid was born into the fucking league. He was born into the league. Clay was born into the league. How do you not learn from these guys? They've been around the NBA their entire life.
And they
How do
had
you
every
not?
type of leader there because Steph and Clay, I'm sure, were quieter and nicer about things. But then you had Draymond getting to Kevin Durant because
Right.
the other stuff wasn't working.
So how do you fail at learning? It speaks of an arrogance that you said that both these guys have. It speaks of an arrogance. We've been
Mhm.
on championship teams. Kevin Durant said he didn't like the fucking offense that Golden State was running. So you come to Brooklyn and all you doing is ISO, ISO, ISO. You know what happens when you isolate the entire game? You get fucking tired. You get tired.
You start
And then
dropping 20 and your percentage goes down, and then
way
you
down.
end up with a toe on the line, or you know, whatever excuse you want to make. But yeah, you're tired.
It baffles me. And we're looking at Steve Nash and we're like, can you make some kind of adjustment to get him a clean open shot? Oh, oops, guess what? You're not even a fucking great coach. You can't do that.
He's looking
You
at
see,
Kyrie, waiting on Kyrie to call the play because Kyrie's the coach too, and Kevin Durant's the coach too. So he's just waiting on them to call plays.
everything about this Brooklyn Nets team was disgusting. And I feel bad for the veterans who signed on to play for that shit. Like we both said during the week. When James Harden, of all people, said, I can't deal with this shit, that was the biggest
Mm-hmm.
sign that they wasn't gonna win. When James Harden, who the last time when he was in Miami didn't play because he was out till 6 a.m. in the morning in the strip club, just saying, and then came up with the excuse, oh, I pulled a hamstring, I can't play. Yeah, bitch. If that guy who doesn't take anything serious couldn't fit in Brooklyn, who doesn't take playing serious, that's a problem. That, that's a problem. Okay. I wonder if James Harden gonna be back in the strip clubs tonight. Considering game one is tomorrow. So
Well,
speaking of that,
if he wants to put on a showcase and say, "Hey, you don't need Embiid," this is the time to do it. So,
oh, they're just gonna lock him up like they did Trey Young. So speaking of that, let's just go ahead and start with Miami and Philly because we did have the news that Embiid he's gonna be out for the first two games. They said indefinitely. Um, I don't know how long indefinitely is. The last time he had this injury, he was out for 3 weeks before he came and
mhm.
played. Um, I'm expecting him to miss this series because not necessarily because of the orbital fracture, but because of the concussion that he has. So that's right there is going to be 7 to 10 days.
Right.
How do you think the series changes now? I know we both were going to pick Miami anyway, but how do you think the series changes now without Joel Embiid?
Um, I just don't think Philly has enough firepower, and Miami's defense is too good for like Harden and Maxey to do it all. So you got
Hmm.
Tobias that's going to have to step up, but then outside of that, you're going to need a lot of work from your bench and your other guys to fill that because Embiid's a huge hole you have to fill. I mean, both rebounding and points and just the presence on the presence you can't replace. So all you can do is hope to somehow get back some of his stats, so that'll get spread out. But the problem is you have three scoring options. You have Harden, Maxey, and Tobias as their main three scoring options in my eyes. And Tobias has had a good year, and of course Maxey as well. I think it's going to come down to how effective James Harden can play his game, and I don't think that's going to be super effective because Miami has so many weapons to throw at him on the defensive end. So I think before Philly could have caused some problems, even though I still think Miami was going to win. Now, I think Philly's kind of like dead in the water. They might get a game or something, but I just I don't think they have enough to overcome what Miami can bring to the table. And Miami is way deeper. They can hurt you with so many players. And Harden still hasn't necessarily proved that he can just take over a series on his own.
Right, right. He's never proved
So
that.
I
Yeah.
so I mean he might have a good game or two, but you guys have so much you can throw at him. It's going to be hard for him to do anything. I think.
Philly's going to get a game, and I wouldn't be surprised if Philly takes game one today because it's going to be a filling out game. I would not be surprised if Harden had a monster game today and shocked Miami, kind of woke Miami up a little bit. I don't know if Lowry's playing. Jimmy said he's going to try to play. I don't know if Lowry's playing. I do know Miami's going to win the series, and I do believe Bam's going to have a great series because Philly just doesn't have any decent bigs. They don't. So
Mm-hmm.
I think Bam. I think this is the series for Bam to kind of snap. He had COVID right before the playoffs. Kind of sluggish in the first round, getting himself back together. I think this is the series where Bam is going to be Bam and dominate. Um, I think the physical nature of Miami, Philly's quick. Don't get me wrong, they're quick. Without Embiid, they're going to be a quicker team. They have a couple of shooters on that team, but I think as physical as Miami is, it's going to slow them down a little bit. Philly's going to try to do a finesse game, and I don't think it's going to work because we have some big bodies we can put on people. And I actually think Oladipo might get more playing time in this series too. Caleb Martin, who's a great defender, is going to get more time in this series. So, like you said, Miami has so many weapons that we can throw at Philadelphia. It is absolutely ridiculous. But I do believe James Harden is going to work that foul line. I mean, you're going to see arms flailing every play. He's every time he goes, he can be doing all this shit and getting to the free throw line, right? So
Look,
and
the
trying to
refs
get
love Philly anyway, so
yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
know.
So we're going to see a lot of that. And Miami's not shy when it comes to fouls. We'll foul you, we'll foul you. But I think I'm going to say my prediction of Heat and six isn't going to change because I think Harden is good enough to get a couple of games. So Heat and six. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Heat and six. But so you think Philly wins today though?
I think it's a high likelihood that Philly can still game one in Miami. Yep, yep. And that's
Okay.
just the respect I have for. Even though he's never done shit in the playoffs, I still respect James Harden when he's locked in. And
Hmm.
now he has to be locked in because Embiid. The crazy thing is, if Embiid was playing today, I'd be like, you know what, Miami's gonna win game one. But without Embiid, I think Harden's gonna be a little more locked
Hmm.
in. We may see a little more Houston James Harden, and I think they might go in there and still game one tomorrow. Forgive me, I said today, but tomorrow.
Y'all's
Um,
best weapon against Harden might be your strip clubs.
oh, it will be. Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. We already got that on lock. Don't worry. Hey, Harden, look, who's ever he's close with on the Heat, we already got that on lock. Trust me. Yeah, the girls were probably waiting for him as soon as the plane landed,
Mhm.
as soon as the
Yeah,
wheels
at the
touched the
airport.
ground. Yeah, at the airport. Yeah, they call that the South Beach advantage. That's what they call it. So today we have the highly anticipated Milwaukee Bucks going up against Boston Celtics matchup, and then we also have Golden State and Memphis. So first, I'm going to ask you to call the games today, and then I'm going to ask you to call the series. Milwaukee, Boston, game one in Boston. Who you got?
Um, Milwaukee.
All right,
I,
I'm with
I,
you
I
on
think
that.
Milwaukee. Because Boston's been on such a like a heater of a run. I
Mm,
think I think Milwaukee might come in there and surprise them
hmm
to try to like set the tone for the series.
All right, Golden State going to Memphis. Who you got today?
Golden State.
So you picking both road teams to win?
I know.
All right, here we go. So the series. Milwaukee and Boston. Who you got? And how many games?
This is so hard. I really like I don't even have like an instinctual pick for this. It's
Mhm.
I am so excited for this series.
Right.
I'm gonna I'm gonna pick Milwaukee in like seven.
Okay. Okay. I got you. Picking Milwaukee in
And
seven. Look, picking Milwaukee in seven means Milwaukee has to win game seven in Boston. You got some balls, my man. I know you hate Boston, but you
I
got some.
don't
Well,
I don't
the
hate
Boston
Boston.
people.
I've hated yes, I hate some of their fans.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say Giannis is gonna be undeniable.
All right.
Like I think
Got you.
that's why they're gonna win those games. You're gonna just see a monster game from him, like the things he was doing last year in the finals.
All
So
right.
I think he can overcome any of the obstacles of these games. So I'm gonna go with him in seven, and then um, how many like Golden State in six.
Got you. So I'm going with only because I've been saying all year. I talked to the basketball gods. Milwaukee. I'm going with Milwaukee in six. And I'm going with Golden State in five. I'm only giving Memphis one game. I think they're going to get annihilated, and it's not a bad thing. It's going to be a
Yeah.
part of their growth because,
Hmm. Hmm.
as I always say, the basketball gods don't like ugly. And I was watching Memphis beat Minnesota, and I know you believe Memphis isn't a true second seed, but it was just a little too much. It wasn't as bad. It wasn't as cringe worthy as when Minnesota won the playing game, but Memphis beating Minnesota was a little cringe for me. And I'm like,
I
you
gotcha.
guys, all you did was beat a team that you were supposed to beat. It's
Hmm.
not like Minnesota. If Minnesota would have beat Memphis, then yes, you celebrate that way. But Memphis beating Minnesota is like, no, you just did what you were supposed to do, right? So I think they're about to be humble, and I
Right.
think it's a part of their maturation. It's a part of their championship steps that they run
Hmm.
into a team like Golden State. I think they're going to get shitted on. I really do think they're going to get shitted on. And it's nothing against Memphis. It's actually going to help them grow because
Yeah.
if they see Golden State next year or the year after that, they very well may beat Golden State. But they need to feel that pain this year,
Hmm.
just like New Orleans felt that pain the other night with Phoenix, which was absolutely beautiful to watch. It was beautiful to watch players give a shit and cry and watch their coach
Yeah.
give a shit and cry versus seeing a guy who just got swept and he's sitting in his post game conference cheesing. Why?
Mhm.
It doesn't match up, right? So,
Yeah. You didn't see Ingram claiming to be a god or McCollum claiming to be
right,
a god right after.
right.
So
Um, so that that's what I appreciate seeing. So I do
mhm.
believe it's going to be a very bad playoff series for Memphis, but it's going to help them long term with their growth. So the last series we have is Dallas at Phoenix. How do you think this is going to work out? Because Chris Paul had to go point guard mode to get through New Orleans. Well, now he's going up against the second coming in Luca. Let's be real. So how do you think Chris Paul is going to do in this series?
Oh, I think Chris Paul is going to be fine. I think he's going to do Chris Paul things. I mean, he didn't miss a shot the other night. It might come down to just how truly effective and healthy. I mean, for Phoenix, I mean, it might come down to how great Devin Booker can be in the series. We know that the rest of the Phoenix team can do their thing. Aiton is a great big man. Mikal Bridges is a great defensive presence. Like they have what they need. I think it might come down to just how great Booker can be and how great Chris Paul with Devin Booker can be. Um, and and on the flip side of that, you have Luca, who's doing everything. He's so big, especially at that position. Um, he's going to give Chris Paul problems with that size. But also, like the emergence of Brunson and being able to kind of like help carry that load with Dinwiddie for a while Luca was down. That confidence, it can do a lot at the right time. And so Brunson just playing as good as he is, that combo right now could be more dangerous than the Chris Paul Devin Booker lineup for this, just for the sake of Booker coming back off some injury, maybe still lingering, and the
Mhm.
size difference between Chris Paul and Luca, like just those guard combos, like the way they're going to match up, it could lean more towards Dallas. And if it's going to come down and the games are going to be close, and you have your closers, Luca, Booker, Chris Paul. Those guys can make shots when you need them to. Um, depending on how the series go and how Booker looks, it might be easier to pick Luca in those situations to close out some of these that are going to inevitably be close games.
Mhm.
So this one's tough to pick because I'm leaning towards Dallas upsetting Phoenix. But every time I bet against Phoenix, outside of the finals that year, they've won. So I'm
Phoenix
gonna go.
fucked you
I'm gonna.
last year.
They really did. They fucked up my whole head. Uh, so ain't good for that. I like
Yeah,
being wrong sometimes. I like being surprised sometimes.
yeah.
Especially if I'm not always convinced. But I'm gonna go with Dallas in this.
Hmm.
Um, I think Dallas wins the series.
Oh wow,
I'm not sure in how many.
wow.
7, I guess. I see it being so close, so it's hard for me to shave any of these games off. I say it goes to like 7.
Wow. I got I got Phoenix in 7, so we're gonna be opposite on this one. I mean, we're opposite. Oh no, we were opposite on Golden State. So we're gonna be opposite on this one. I got Phoenix
Hmm.
in 7. I think it's gonna be a very Very tough series, and especially with Dallas, they've been missing in the playoffs. Their second best player, Tim Hardaway Jr., hasn't even been playing, and Dallas has been
Mm-mm.
still playing spectacular. Um,
Even without Luca. I
yeah,
mean, up
yeah,
until Luca, I mean,
yeah.
granted, they still lost some games, but the way they were playing, it was like, okay, we thought they were just going to get trashed.
Right, 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 right. So, yeah, man. So yeah, we're gonna be opposite on this. It's gonna be interesting to see. Um, for my benefit, of course, I want Phoenix to lose, but I think they're gonna win this series. So, so there we have it. We got Milwaukee over Boston. We got Golden State over Memphis. We got Miami over Philly, and then we're split on Phoenix and Dallas. Do you have any last words for the people, Bryce, before we wrap up this week?
Mm. Nope, just try to watch as much basketball as you can because some of these series it's gonna be some of the best basketball we've seen in a long time.
I'm gonna make a plea with the city of Miami. Y'all know what to do. Anytime you see James Harden, just put a buffet in front of him. We have to keep him distracted. Girls of Miami, when you come to the game, wear your white hot gear, but just give James Harden a little something to look at during the game. You got to keep this dude, keep him distracted, and who knows, you might get a come up off of it. So that's gonna be it for this week's episode of the Hardwood Nation podcast. Be sure to follow us on all the fucking socials at Hardwood Nation. Like and subscribe to our content on YouTube. We're inching
Please,
closer to that magic number. Like, subscribe, comment, tell us how you love us, tell us how you hate us, tell us who your favorite team is. Tell Kevin Durant he's God. We don't give a fuck. We will see you guys later.